Hi Sergio, how are you?
I'm doing great, Alessandro. Great to see you.
Great to see you too. It's crazy. We were talking before and we were saying that we haven't seen each other for probably around 15 years, which is insane.
Yeah, yeah. I lost count. When you lose count, that means it's too many years. Too many.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna leave it as that. Yeah.
Sergio, you and I go way back. I actually went to Berkeley because of Sergio. He helped me out with preparing for the audition, and it was the Ponte USA you used to call it, right?
That's right. Yeah, yeah. The bridge from Italy to the magic land of Boston and Berkeley, and a few of you actually made that experience, and I'm glad it worked out great.
Yeah. Sergio is a great teacher and great friend over the years has become. So I'm really grateful to have you here. Thanks for taking the time.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
So let's start from the beginning, Sergio. How did you get into drumming? Why? And then how did you make the switch from Italy to US?
Okay, yeah, I'm going to take a few minutes because it's quite the journey there. But as far as starting, I guess music was always within me. Nobody played music in my family, but my father, everybody around the house, my older brother, they always had music at all times in the car, at home. So I grew up listening to a lot of good music. I was lucky. And, probably drums is always the thing that spoke to me the most, because some of my classmates tell me that even before starting to play the drums, which happened around 16, but before then, so I started late on the actual drum sets, but I was tapping on the desk wherever I was. So or maybe doing air drumming kind of a thing. So I was always into the drums. And then at some point when I was 15, we went to visit, my mom and I went to visit a relative, some relatives, and while the moms were having tea or coffee, this cousin of mine, second cousin of mine, took me to his basement and he said, "Let's go downstairs, I'll show you. This is where I practice with the band." And so as soon as I walked in and I saw amps, guitars, drums, I was like, wow, the drum set. Now finally I can touch it. He goes like, yeah, sit behind. And as soon as I played the first few notes, I swear I knew in that moment that I was going to be a drummer for the rest of my life. It was just that powerful. I still remember it. And so, then I told my parents I want to play the drums. We lived in a condominium, so they immediately said, no way. You can play bass, you can play guitar, keyboards. And I said, either I play the drums or I don't play any music at all. So my father spoke with all the people in the condominium, and, he was able to sneak an agreement that from 4 to 7 p.m. I could play every afternoon, right? 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. So typically at 3:59, I was already, in position. But you have to understand at the time, there weren't too many pads, electronic drums, all the stuff we have now. So I guess now we're a little more spoiled. You could play at 2 a.m. with headphones, but back then it was loud and I didn't know much of what I was doing. So I did maybe 6 months of self-taught. As a matter of fact, I set up my drums right-handed and right-footed because of the magazines. I would look at photos of Stuart Copeland and know, okay, set up like that. But being a lefty, when I went to study with my first teacher, he made me switch to lefty. So this particular teacher was great. His name is Michele Di Monte. He still teaches in Bari. And I went to him because my parents told me, if you want to play the drums or whatever you do, find out who is the best teacher in town. If you do it, you got to do it right. So everybody recommended him. I did a couple of years with him, maybe more, 3. Then I went in the Marines for a year after I finished high school. So I was studying with him and playing with punk bands, a lot of punk rock music, fast stuff. And then I moved to Torino, to the north. So when I moved to Torino, to the north, I studied with another teacher, Enrico Lucchini, who was coming 1 day a week. Great Italian teacher, many cats, studied with him. And the reason why I moved to Torino was to play. I did ballrooms, casinos, so I started to actually, be a professional drummer at a fairly young age. And I was 20, and at the time, there was a lot of work, unlike now, more work. That opened my mind to America. So the transition happened because when I was playing, especially on cruise ships, there were, copies of Modern Drummer floating around from the other drummers on the ship, getting to talk to them. The name Berklee College of Music was always on musicians' conversations. And so I applied to audition for a scholarship because, of course, the college is expensive. So I was going to go to Musician Institute in California, but what happened, and if it's too long, the story, I can cut it short.
I love it.
I think it's important to point out and highlight how harder it was back then without the internet for all of us of that generation. So my older brother, the guy who really turned me into music, he came to Boston for other matters, business matters, came to Boston, and he walked by Berklee College of Music, and he even knew the name. That's how much Berklee would come in a conversation of a musician, of a household where there's a musician. It's like America, Berklee, jazz, all the people I was listening to had ties with Berklee. So he went into the bookstore and he bought me a sweatshirt and he grabbed a catalog at the school. So imagine with the catalog, I probably looked at that brochure 50 times, and there was a coupon. Cut the coupon, the clip, mail it in to receive even more information about admissions and scholarship. So I mailed that in, wait 2 months, receive something back. I mean, it took me about a couple of years to actually audition to Berklee and then go to the college. So it was a long process. But in the meanwhile, I was playing. I was on cruise ships, making money, learning how to play different styles, improving my English. I thought I did at least, but you probably know because you were in Boston. Once you get to Boston, whatever English you know, it's zero because the accent and the way they talk fast. I was totally lost. I'm like, wow, I really don't know English as much as I thought I did, but So that's how 93 I auditioned, and then I played a couple more contracts on the ship, and in January of 95, in fact, it'll be 30 years this coming January. I will be celebrating USA anniversary, 30 years in the US.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. Went just like that.
And you're only 25.
Exactly. 25, as we say in my land of Bari, 25 per leg. Actually, a little more. I'm at about 27 and a half per leg now. Yeah. So, yeah.
That's pretty cool how you went from self-taught to basically now you are teaching there. You are an associate professor?
Associate professor, and I've been teaching at Berklee for 22 years.
Yeah. I also studied with you a couple of semesters.
That's right. I remember. I think you did one in the beginning and one at the end, something like that.
I think so too, yeah.
Yeah. And it was amazing. I remember it was amazing because, and some students do, they study with me in the beginning. Now, of course, you and I had lessons even before you came to Berklee, but sometimes I'll just meet a student for first or second semester, and then I tell them, well, try all the different teachers because there's like 40 teachers. So study with as many people as you can, and then hopefully touch base with me at the end, stay in touch. Some do, 7th, 8th semesters, they come back. And it blows my mind away to see the growth. Because I happen to remember, not just the mechanics, but the overall musicianship. the mechanics, sometimes that's not what impresses me the most. But the growth, the musicianship, as a human being and as instrumentalist, it's just great.
Yeah. How did you know, or how did you make the how did you get the choice to start teaching at Berklee? And was it something you wanted to do, or it came along almost by mistake, or how did it go?
Yeah, I wouldn't say by mistake, but it was not something I had planned that much. So I did teach a few private lessons here and there in Italy. Even when I was a kid, when I first learned my first, 2-3 drum beats, somehow I found a kid who didn't know those 2-3 drum beats, and he was even more a beginner of what I was, and I started teaching him. And we're still in touch, so he was my very first student. So I guess, I'm not sure if it was because I needed to make some extra pocket money, or to me it sounds like this thing of sharing what I knew was already there.
Yeah.
When I moved to Boston, I did teach. Before teaching at Berklee, I taught at DeCenzo Drum Shop one summer. Wow. Dave DeCenzo's father, he had a great drum shop with teaching rooms. And then I taught a Berklee program called Berklee CD Music. It was only on Saturday morning for kids that are underprivileged and low-income families. So I was helping on that program. Then I did the percussion festival at Berklee, which is a few days of teaching. Then the 5-week session in the summer. What really helped me was my teacher and mentor, Skip Haddon. He would go to Italy on tour, clinic tours or performances, and a couple of times he hired me to sub for him.
Wow.
Yeah. And at the time, it was possible for a teacher to be helped by a student. And Skip knew that I knew the material, and he trusted me with the keys, with the fact that I would run the classes the way he wanted instead of just going in and doing my thing. For me, it was actually easier. The programs were laid out. Perfect opportunity to learn from a master, how to become an organized teacher. So I did that a couple of times, and I was just visible in the department. And then what happened, one semester, Ed Kaspic died. He was a teacher there, great teacher that was there for a long time. He died, unfortunately. And another great teacher, Joe Hunt, moved out of state. So 2 teachers are now not available. Student population was growing, so Berklee decided to hire 3 teachers, and my name was already in the hat, because the chairman knew me. Some former teachers, vouched for me. They said, well, this guy's great. He can play, he can teach. But of course, I had to go through the application process, do a presentation in front of everybody. So imagine, walking into a room and having Mike Mangini there, and all the cats, Ken with Denard, all the people that were my teachers now are listening to me, telling them on why I should become a teacher at Berklee.
That's crazy.
So when I first walked in, I was extremely nervous, but these guys were so amazing. I got a few hugs before I started. They were like, don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. Be yourself. Somebody said, just be yourself.
Yeah.
Don't try to be anybody else. We're all taken already. Just do your thing. Your thing will be unique. And that's what happened. I maybe I was, at the right moment in the right time.
Well, someone told me once, the harder you work, the luckier you get.
That's right. And someone told me. I told you because Bernard Purdy told me that.
Really?
So, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That's from Bernard, absolutely. And I'm sure he heard it from somebody else. It just makes so much sense that, it's something that it's probably in the book that came before the Bible, right? It's one of those organic things that even if they were never written anywhere, they're just part of the fundamentals, principles of life. You work hard and then things happen. Very true. Look at you. I mean, I follow you. I'm proud. I'm blown away every time I see, you're doing jobs that I, frankly, it's not like if you call me to sub for some of your jobs, I would have to say thank you. Do I have a month to prepare? And not only that, can you help me and teach me? It's not something I can walk in.
You're a pretty amazing drummer, so I don't think
well, but some jobs are very unique and particular. I guess the notion that we are the best at everything is just doesn't make sense. It never did. So I look at what other people do, and if I get a call to do something that it's out of my comfort zone, typically I take it because it's a great opportunity to grow and learn new skills. But I'm not the type, how come he or she got that gig? We can't be the best at every gig we do. You know what I mean? It's true. Like, I'm great at what I do. I mean, people call me, so I guess I'm available and great for that situation. But there are drummers that are just incredible in all styles. Of course, some can do every gig flawlessly, very few. But typically, you have guys and girls that are, they're in that situation. Yeah. They got their own thing. And I also believe that you get better at what you are given the opportunity to do. So to go back to what you said before, I didn't really want to become a teacher, but once I had the opportunity, I'm like, wow, this is great. Now I am going to be a teacher. And for me, the way I do it, I always go back to my father's words. Whatever you do, make sure you deliver. You do it at the best. So even for teaching, I have gazillion books. I keep watching videos. I'm always online trying to see how everybody else is doing it. Of course, I developed my own curriculum. That makes sense, but it is what it is. You gotta do your own thing and be humble enough to learn from everybody else out there.
Well, talking about your online presence, I really enjoy your tips from the gigs that series that you're doing. I think that's really cool because it showcases how a professional thinks about getting gigs rather than they're very, very laser focused advice that you're giving in there, and I really enjoy it.
Thank you. Yeah, it started very casually, and it's still a very casual thing. I'm not trying to monetize on YouTube. It's just a way for me to share because I feel that there's so much great content online. Of course, there's also a lot of garbage, but when you browse online, you start to learn, it's like being in a city. You know which streets have the shops you want to go to and look, or which friends hang out in which bars and you want to be with them. But sometimes you venture, right? You just got to take another path. Yeah. So I always discover new things, especially on YouTube. But tips from the gigs, it's more like I want to share some of the things that I learn and experience and pass them on. It's a way to say thank you and put back in the community. It's like the box, leave a book, take a book, right? You can't just take books. If everybody takes books, then the book is empty.
That's
you
true.
know what I mean? So, that's it.
Linking to that, going back to what you said before, that back in the days there was so much work going around, and now obviously there's much less, less gigs, but more musicians, right? Like, what kind of advice would you give to someone, maybe a new 20-year-old, they are maybe going into college or just out of college, and they want to start working with music? What do you think is the key, to make it as a musician?
Right. For me, what worked for me and what I would tell my students or whoever would ask me so, and I'm not saying this is a general thing that will work for everybody, but of course I have to speak for myself. my personal advice would be to diversify the portfolio as much as possible. If I look back at my career to this date, my being sustainable and being able to do what I do, and be a family man and support my family. My kids are in college now. The whole process has been of really diversifying the portfolio and be able to function as a gigging drummer, and within that umbrella, different type of gigs. So I've never put myself as, I'm only going to do my real artsy stuff, the things that I really want to do. I have done gigs that paid the bills. Now, there's an art in finding the arts in those two. I'm positive. So even if I do something that maybe it's not really the music I was listening in the car on my way to the gig, once I get there, I make it happen with heart and soul. So diversify, play as many styles as possible. That's number one. And maybe look at the music industry as a whole. I took some online business courses at Berklee during the pandemic, and a couple of those were just eye-openers. There are 27 streams of revenue in the music business. At least in this course, it was taught as such. And gigging is only one of them, and the least profitable. So think about composing, think about selling merchandise, think about teaching, think about nowadays generating income through your arts on social media. It could be teaching courses, offering courses online. I mean, there are so many different ways to diversify. So when I look at in my case, I also have a drum store. I've always been in retail. I understand that's not for everybody, but between teaching, playing, and running a business, there you go. That's already a portfolio that is diversified. And sometimes gigging is low, right? Winter comes, very few gigs, but maybe teaching is up during those months. In the summer, I'm teaching less, but this week I have 4 corporate gigs.
Wow.
So it makes up. And those 4 corporate gigs, one is tuxedo, brushes, and few big band charts, and the other one is a band that plays Latin music, Latin dance music, and the other one is soul, funk, R&B. You really have to invest yourself in becoming as competent as possible in all the different styles. That worked for me, and I would tell a young person, to keep your mind really open and be ready. You can't do just one thing. And I mean, as I said, some people were successful. If you join a band, if you join, Billy Joel when you're young, or Red Hot Chili Peppers, you're a founding member of the band, and that's what you do all your life. That's fantastic, right? But it doesn't happen to everybody.
That's true.
So,
I have a question about this. Obviously, I believe in versatility as well. But there are certain styles that, for example, I can survive, in the style for 1 or 2 songs, but I wouldn't take a full gig of that style. But do you think that is better? Like, let's say someone, for example, reggae is one of those styles for me, right? I'm not that great at reggae. I can survive a couple of tunes, with the basic grooves that I learned, but not a full gig. But do you think that if someone offered me let's say a regular reggae gig, do you think one should start digging more into the reggae style and then get into it, or someone should say no because you're not into it?
Well, sometimes you get into things by being open-minded and trying and being exposed. It's the same thing for food, right? Sometimes we're like, I don't really do that kind of food, or you've never tried it, and then maybe a partner or a friend turns you into something and you go like, wow, I kind of like this type of stuff now. So taste can change. Personally, I always like those challenges. Now, if it's a one-off, and there are 20 songs to learn and the pay is low and I'm not a reggae drummer, I might say, is there somebody else that can do it maybe? Because it's a lot of work for little money, and if it's only one gig. But then it depends. I might even go, I have a slow week, I'll do it. I'm getting paid, even if it's little money, I'm getting paid to learn something new. And so I might take that experience and bring it to the classroom. It's like even, when I play weddings, sometimes if I do the math of how far do I have to drive and come back home, set up, but I'm learning new songs, then I'm telling my students what's up, I'm preparing them for the real world.
Yeah.
I became super fast at charting pop songs in one take or two, which is beautiful because then it's going to happen at a higher level. Look at Phil Mer, the drummer for the Pooh. He got a call from Zucchero.
Yeah.
He needed to be in London at that famous hall. I forgot the name.
Royal Albert Hall.
Within 24 hours.
Yeah.
Obviously, not only was a great drummer, he knew how to chart things fast enough that he would function on the first gig, and then there's the second gig. See, the thing is not being fired. If you don't get fired on the first gig, you make it to the second, you're in. Then you got more time to catch up because you're a pro and you'll know, 20 reggae tunes, like you said. I only, there were a couple where I was in the zone and the other 18. Well, the next gig, it'll be 6 that you're in the zone. And the other 12, you're still, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you might be surprised. You might get into it, and do it.
That's
I started as a rock drummer, and I never had a professional rock gig. Never.
Yeah.
I've never been in a rock band. Yeah, a couple of things here and there, but I became really a all-around fusion, jazz, soul, R&B. I do everything but real mainstream rock. It doesn't happen. I'm not in those circles. But
you play with some pretty amazing people. I remember Spaghetti and other projects that We Jets Up, all these great projects, that have been going on for a long time.
They're all still happening. We Jazz Up, we're playing tonight. We have a residency in Boston. We have been there in the same club for 20 years. And we also do, one-off private things here and there or festivals. Spaghetti, we don't play as much live, but we're still doing it. We recorded a few more songs with Mike Stern a few years ago.
Right.
So the first album was with Mike Stern on guitar. This is when we were still Berklee students.
Yeah.
And then we did another round of songs that we released digitally a few years back. So, projects always. When people say, how many projects are you in? I'm like, as many as come my way. I like to say yes. It keeps me motivated. Yeah. And again, for me, it's the double salary. Whatever I make and put in the bank or in my pocket, that's the thing that I look the least. And I'm not saying I don't enjoy or I don't need it. Of course I need it. But to me, I look at the big picture. What's in it for me? Am I learning something? Am I meeting new people? Is this going to be great for my career, or it's just another gig? So I always also make that distinction, and I'd like to pass this advice to younger players or students. Always try to balance your resume gigs with your income gigs. Sometimes the income gigs, you need them to pay rent. They don't really lead to much else than another income gig if it's a casual, A wedding leads to a wedding with the same band or, another private function. But your resume gigs might pay less, but you're learning new skills, you're meeting new people, and that's something that could lead you to the things you will write in your bio.
Yeah.
So for me, the resume gigs are really important. And therefore, all these side projects, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the fact that you remember the names, that's because it was, but you don't remember in which bar I was playing, on Saturday nights for drunk people. I don't even remember that. You know what I mean? that paid the bills, but it wasn't something that it's here to stay.
You know, this is very interesting, and I'm just curious. You know, how do you think one should balance the art and the bills? Like, do you think it's personal? Do you think there should be a ratio? Do you think someone should just decide and go all in on the art, all in on the like? What are your thoughts about that?
Look, I'm 50, almost 56, and I still debate that all the time within myself, talk about it with my wife. She's also an artist. It's a constant, I wouldn't call it struggle. It's not a struggle, but it's a constant finding the right balance. Here's how I see it. So, you want to try to be sustainable, meaning you have enough income that you can have hours available, as many hours available to nourish your art. So if you live in a very expensive place, which is my case, in Boston, what happens, nobody, well, I wouldn't say nobody, but we have very little time, we the musicians, the artists, to actually focus on the arts because we're always running from gig to gig to gig to make it at the end of the month. Some people might live in a rural area where, you know, with 2-3 gigs a week, you make rent, groceries, and whatever else. Now you have all that time free during the day. You don't have to teach, you don't have to run a store, you don't have to hustle, you don't have to play 6 gigs a week. So if you have more time to yourself, then you can be an artist. You can go like, oh, this afternoon, I'm just going to be home, set up my keyboards, do whatever, compose, practice. It's a beautiful thing. So I don't think there are rules other than if you try to make as much money per hour as you can, because the reality is there are 168 hours a week. That's what I work with my students. We write it on the board, and then we deduct all the must-do: eat, sleep, going to class, hang out with friends sometimes, make calls with relatives, whatever. At the end of the day, whatever is left, it will be your time to be an artist. Or if you're a college student, to practice and still be an artist. So you got to do this math. The more money you make per hour, the more you can free up hours to do the things you love.
Yeah.
But if you spread yourself thin and if you work at a job that doesn't pay, well, then you have to work 70 hours a week, then you're tired, and where do you find the time to compose, be an artist, and come up with your original stuff?
You don't.
You don't. That's the answer.
Yeah.
So I really think it's that's the type of balance I'd like to find, and it's like EQing. For me, life is like an equalizer. Every morning, there's a little adjustment I make.
Yeah.
You just improve one day at a time. I call it devolution.
Oh, I love that.
Evolving one day at a time. It came a few years back to me when I was always noticing online, people doing the New Year resolution. Mm-hmm. I'm like, New Year resolution, one resolution a year? How many years do we have left? Even when I was younger, I'm like, I don't know. I don't just want to have, one resolution per year. I want to make a resolution every day. Every hour you can do something more meaningful for yourself or for everybody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can change everything every day, even the way the procedures. Do you brush your teeth first or you shower? Or do you have coffee or what kind of coffee? You don't need coffee. There's all sort of things you can improve every day of your life in the social relations, in the way you spend time on social media. It's a consistent finding the best way to do it, the better way to do it.
Actually, hearing you talk like this, man, I'm getting a bit emotional because it reminds me of the times, back in the day. Honestly, You've always been so inspiring. You always had this way of conveying things that are. It's the way that gets to you. I mean, to me at least, like
Right.
this, the way you talk, it's just straight to the point, and I can see why you're an amazing teacher and an amazing musician too. Because you want to communicate something with your music, with your art, and you do that. That's what I've always thought, and it was great that I managed to meet you in my journey.
Thank you, Ale. On this topic, I shall say that you always want to surround yourself with people that attract you, people that resonate with you. And for me, I was fortunate because throughout my life, not just in the music world, I met so many people that whatever I do on a daily basis, at some point, those figures come my way. For example, Dom Famularo, may he rest in peace. I miss him every day. If I go, and I was lucky to study with him, travel with Dom, did some events, I call it being in Dom's mode. So what happens is that, for example, if I do a drum set presentation somewhere, whether it's within the department or a clinic or something, I switch, I go into Dom's mode, right? Because I was so inspired watching him many times in action, and the things that he taught me, or the way he would communicate with me, the same way you were just telling me how what I did with you back in the days, or I'm doing now, resonates with you. I was fortunate to have mentors throughout my life that inspired me to do the same. And those are, key factors, consistent figures that will pop up at the right moments when you need it the most, whether it's public speaking or performing. Some of the advice you get from your teachers and your mentors about do's and don'ts on a gig or in a professional situation, you treasure that stuff. So the more you surround yourself with greatness, and if you get 1% from each cat, 2%, 3%, keep adding, then you blend it with your own. And one day, there's that thing, find out what your gift is, and then pass it on. Live it, but give it to others, right? So you want to inspire others to grab it from you, make it their own, and then you got to pass it on. You definitely have to. And I know you will, and you are.
Try my best to live up to the expectation.
Yeah.
Well, you are the master of diversification, as we were talking about before, the different ways of things. You're an entrepreneur, and I think I also got a bit of that in myself, and also from you, because we were working together when I was in Boston, helping each other out with stuff. And
yes.
And I know that you've been also diversifying, working in, like music composing, film scoring, things like that. Can you tell us a bit about what you've been up to under that side and things like that?
Absolutely. As far as composing, I've always loved to. Composing is one of those things you really don't sit at a desk unless you have time and you do that as a living, or maybe you have a contract to finish compositions for a particular project or for television. For me, it never happened that way up until recent days, and I'll get into that. But composing is more, a melody might come to you. It's almost like a gift from God. You might be walking in the rain or driving a car, and you start humming this melody or groove, and then the melody comes along. However you do it, doesn't matter. So back in the days, I would record melodies on cassettes. Now, I do it on my phone, and sometimes those ideas sit there. They might be forgotten. I may never release any of them, but every now and then, there's something coming out, because it's that urge as an artist to put it out there. If you hear it in your head, and you think it's such a gift to you, as I said, you want to pass it on, right? And share it with others. So I composed through the years, whether it was with my band Spajazzi. I also composed a few things within the dance music world, the specifically house music. I was fortunate to meet a DJ in Italy, in Milan, DJ producer, and he said, well, let's collaborate. Do you have any songs? And to go back to what I said before, I didn't say, no, I don't have any songs. I said, I have songs. They're not dance songs, but let me go home and see what we could make out of it. So I took a smooth jazz melody from back in the days and made it into a house dance song.
That's pretty cool.
So, yeah, it's interesting because the smooth jazz version, it's not out yet. I'm working on that. So it's just that opportunity that arises, and you take it. Because if you're learning something new, and if you have a chance to express yourself, maybe in a format that you weren't thinking about it will push you to discover. Remember what we talked about it when you were asking me about the potential reggae gig. Mm-hmm. Maybe you think it's not the right fit for you, but until you do it. And then when you do it. So I got really excited with that dance project, and then we did a second song. Scoring movies, since you were asking, yes, I have done music for 2 short movies in Italy, produced in Italy. One was actually, the first one came out pretty much out of the blue. The producer knew I played drums, obviously, and he was in love with Birdman, Antonio Sanchez, that brilliant score. So he said, I'd like to do something drums only, kind of like Birdman. Are you up for that? That's another instance in which I could have said, not really, I'm not ready. Maybe my studio's not set up, or I don't think I'm Antonio Sanchez, which of course that's the case. I'm nowhere near the stuff that he does. You know, he's such a brilliant musician and composer, but I took the opportunity. I said, well, it's a short movie, 7 minutes. I'll be Sergio. I won't be Antonio, but I'm going to do my thing, right?
Yeah.
Plus, Antonio's my friend, so what a great way to, bring that inspiration from when we were in college together, and now, even being the same league of work. So I did, and little I know, the movie did great. The short movie did great. I ended up winning first prize for best soundtrack in Venice at the Venice Film Festival. It was a pretty popular movie competition in Rome. It's done by it's sponsored by Rai, the national television Festival dei Tulipani di Seta Nera. So it won best movie, best actor, and best soundtrack. I had no clue. That was the first time I soundtracked something. So I got the second job out of it.
It's not a bad first time gig.
No, I mean, when they told me I was nominated, I was already, first of all, I was already happy that I did it in the first place. Yeah. That was already for me, that was like nomination, graduation, and success. That alone. Every new job, I always take it as, wow, okay, they ask me to do this, they think I'm good enough. I'll do it. I'll do my best, right? That's the attitude I've always had since I was a kid. If you don't get fired the first time you get to the second job, you're good. You're in. So I had no idea. And then, yes, once the award came out, the movie was also presented at the Venice Film Festival, which is super prestigious place. So, now all of a sudden I'm hearing my drumming being played at the Venice Film Festival. That was incredible. And
did you go on the night of the awards?
I did. Yeah, that was, for that movie, just to give some business perspective to our listeners, that movie, I wasn't thinking or looking at the money at all. That was the resume type gig that I was talking about. Because if I do the math, I flew myself to Venice to be there because I needed to be there. I had to go to Rome to the ceremony awards. And yes, I did try to put a couple of gigs together so that it wouldn't cost me as much. But at the end of the day, the money I made on the soundtrack was all gone. Maybe I even spent more than what I made.
Yeah.
But I got a second job out of it, and I learned some new skills. So those are your resume type gigs that you want to worship and sometimes invest more than, oh no, I can't go to Venice and pay my own airline ticket because I have 2 weddings on the island and I'll be making $1,200 if I stay in Boston. Yeah, but those 2 weddings are not going to lead to anything else other than a wedding, maybe another wedding with the same agency.
Yeah.
And I'm not putting down wedding bands, wedding musicians. In fact, I do it. I love it. I'm just saying there's resume gigs and then money gigs. Yeah. Ideally, we would all want to get into the resume gigs that pay you the big money.
Exactly.
So see, the circles are wrapping up. The more money we make per hour, the less hours we work, and we have the free time to deliver as artists.
Yeah.
That's why living in you live in London, right? That's another expensive place.
It is.
You probably have to jump from one job to the next yourself.
Yes, I do.
Right? But if we live see, a lot of people are making money online. I know a friend of mine, teacher, he kept his teaching job online in the United States, but he's living in the south of Italy.
Oh, wow.
And every time we talk on the phone, I tell him, I said, you're a smart, this is great. So, he's earning American salary living in the south of Italy. Next thing you know, you work 10 hours a week and you live very well.
Yeah.
That means, to go back to the 160 hours a week, you have a lot of time now available, more time available to be an artist. So that's a great thing. So, yeah, diversify the portfolio. Nowadays, we're lucky. A lot of people see online being a threat to what we do. Personally, I don't. I think it's giving us some freedoms and opportunities that we didn't have before. Mm-hmm. AI, it's a new thing. It's getting tricky. I'm learning. I'm going to say that I'm learning, taking an AI course pretty soon. Oh, wow. Whether it's going to be my ally or my enemy, I don't know, but I want to know what it does very well. And then I'll see how can I make it work for me, right? So
this is something that I've been thinking about as well, actually, while you mention it, Don't you think that the important thing in the future will be the brand that you build for yourself rather than your skills?
Yeah, absolutely. The brand is always something to work and aim, because eventually that's your real value. But what is a brand made of? How do you gain that brand reputation? Is by, if you look at the big brand names, it's the reputation, customer satisfaction, popularity, in some cases advertisement. In many cases, the power of starting with a brand name. Some things we buy at the supermarket, just buy them and we assume they're the best because they're the ones that came in strong on every shelf at eye level, and with the big red tag, I'm on sale, buy me. So you think that peanut butter is the best. Is it really the best? We don't know, right? There might be a small company up in Maine doing a better product, but so promoting your brand name is absolutely important, but I think you want to have a great product, because the power of marketing is undeniable. There are people that have less skills than others, but are better at promoting it and making it visible. Mm-hmm. But if we go back to what we said before, are you really an artist or you're just in for the money? So if you're in for the money, well, you could own vending machines on the highway between here and New York and probably be making a great amount of money just by paying somebody to install the machines, refilling the machines, and
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying those people don't work, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
there are many, many ways to generate income. Here we're talking about the arts.
Yeah.
So is your brand name, my name, or your name generating money, or generating money but also something you're extremely proud of? And the answer is, to your question, yes. You want to build your brand name, be proud of what you do, and be recognized for being a person that delivers a certain quality.
Yeah. Because
So,
that's what I'm thinking about. Like obviously I can get a song done with AI or a movie soundtrack with AI, but if I want Sergio to do my soundtrack,
right.
it's a different type of thing. It's not like I'm looking for any composer. I want you to do my soundtrack because of your branding power.
Absolutely. Not only being affiliated with certain names will get your products in the proper channels, but also the quality will be higher. I suspect that the people that are already using AI, and I'm sure it's happening, the ones that will succeed are the ones that have that great expertise at the top
Yeah.
before delivering, where you take a look or a listen, 2 listens, 3, tweak it, put your own stamp or brand, whether it was done partially with AI. Maybe AI can do the mechanics.
Yeah.
Mixing it, getting rid of some frequencies for you instead of you, or syncing it up with images. That's labor that could be time consuming. I don't think it's a bad thing if we streamline the mechanical parts of being an artist, because then we can really focus on the content. As you said, I want Sergio, or I want Antonio, I want Alessandro to be my musical partner. If they don't spend all that time to work on the mechanics, they can focus more on the big picture, on the content.
Yeah.
And therefore it's a good thing. I saw a post the other day that was very interesting. A lady, there was a photo of a lady saying, "Can AI learn how to do dishes and the laundry?"
I saw that post as well.
Yeah, think about it, right? So if AI does all these mechanical things that we shouldn't invest too much time, and then we can invest that part of our days, our lives, into focusing on the arts and do what we really want to do and should be doing,
Yeah.
then may AI be welcome.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Amen.
So exactly. When the internet became a reality, I thought about, not I thought, I thought too, but I heard people feeling, the threat of it. Same with drum machines. When I was a kid, my drum teacher told me that there were a couple of years in the late 70s, early 80s, I think, that drummers thought it was over because of the drum machine,
Crazy.
not knowing that the drum machine still needs programming. It's the idea that counts. There are great songs that are programmed, have everything programmed, but the mastermind, the person that did those key inputs, is there.
Yeah.
So, AI, like I said, let's learn this new technology, because it is getting a little trickier in the sense that there might not even be the mastermind behind. You just push a button and say, "Hey, give me a song in C minor that is very dramatic and works well with the murder scene coming at minute 3, but then I want the happy ending in F major."
Yeah.
Push play, and the AI will do it for you. I heard it from
Out.
composers' friends that are seeing a little less work. But like you said, I'm playing with. I'll be in Italy next week at the Blue Note in Milano with Vince Tempera. He scored 110 movies, and he's still very
great.
busy because people want his brand name.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's using AI, but they want him to look at a movie and decide, this note not even this chord. This note in that point is going to lift the whole thing to a different dimension.
Yeah.
So,
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I learned things from him. It was an interesting synergy of, at the time I was asked to do the music for those short movies. I started playing in his trio, and him being, a very famous composer. I mean, one of his songs is in Kill Bill by Quentin Tarantino. So, he scored 115 movies, something like that. But Fantozzi, all the popular cartoons that we listened to when we were kids. He did all those theme songs. But he was telling me, particular keys work for particular moods, that a melody with more than 3 or 4 notes is too much. It's like you got to make it happen with 3, 4 notes. And he showed me on the piano, like, you pick 3 notes and you can get so creative and musical with that. And he did it successfully, so surround yourself with greatness. Sometimes it happens, you're just lucky to be someplace. You meet someone, but take it, you know what I mean? Nourish. Yeah. Luck is like, my father told me this. I'm going to share it because this is powerful. I know you like these stories here, but he told me that luck is like, on a very cold day, you're about to die. It's so cold, it's freezing, and you're not properly dressed. You just notice that there is a little fire in a corner of a street. So you're out, you're homeless, it's cold, then you notice there's like a little flame that it's about to die. That's luck. Now, you got to go fast around the block, find some pieces of wood, plastic, old paper, whatever it is, bring it as fast as you can, put it on that flame and turn it into a big fire. Make sure that it doesn't go down. Otherwise, you're done. So yeah, a lot of people might see that little spark, but you got to do the work to keep the spark on and maybe make it into a big fire. You know what I mean? And that's where your hard work comes in. What we said before, the Bernard Purdy thing that I passed on to you back in the days, the harder you work, the luckier you get. So we all get opportunities, but most of us, some are more fortunate than others. But when you do get an opportunity, you gotta hustle, keep it alive. Just like that little fire, that little flame that could have went dead or big. It's your choice.
It's a very powerful image.
Yeah. That's what I remember. I think my father made it pretty short, but in my mind, the more I think, I elaborated it through my imagination. But it was one of those things. It's cold. You see a little fire. You gotta get the wood. Go get the wood. Yeah. Put it on.
Well, just to switch gear really quick, I know you have a drum book coming out as well.
True. I've been working on a drum book for a very long time, and I keep postponing. Mm-hmm. This is the time to get it out. Dom's vision, Dom Familaro, we mentioned him before, he always told me at every lesson or every time I would see him, how's the book coming along? You got to get your book out. And so I feel now that he's gone that I have to honor him one more time. I know he'd be happy to know that the book will come out. Most of the content is there, actually, the notation, the actual musical examples. I just have to elaborate more on the content. And, one of the reasons why I didn't put it out is because a lot of these materials have been experimented, have been used, in the classroom with my students. That's really the best way to see what works, what doesn't work, what might make a lot of sense for me being the author versus what makes sense for the recipient. So I think just like in other paths of life, you want to do some focus groups. And in the world of teaching, it's called do it with your students.
Yeah.
Monitor the progress, see what makes sense. Maybe this page doesn't need to be there or doesn't need to be there at all. Or a student will ask you a question, well, wait a second, but how do I develop this? Oh, yeah, well, I'm missing an intro here. I need to let somebody know how to do it before you move to step 2. So I think that's part of also the delay is not necessarily going to be a bad thing. I don't look at how quickly something comes out, but how good it will be once it does.
Quality first.
But now is the time. Yeah, quality first, absolutely, because then it's there to stay. Otherwise, yeah, it's if you have a little bit of finale chops and AI could write some content for you, I wouldn't be surprised if pretty soon AI could do music notation if it doesn't already.
Yeah.
And say, imagine this is very realistic, saying, I need a page of 8-note rock grooves where the bass drum in each example moves by 1 8-note or 1 16-note. So that's your first beginner's rock book, but now it's done with the click of a button.
Yeah, one button, done.
Right. Whereas, guys like Rick Latham back in the days, Advanced Funk Studies, he actually spent years to notate it.
Crazy.
Yeah, came up with his own fonts and notation. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
But, so let's go for the quality, and because that pays off on the long run.
Well, Maestro, I think this is a great point to, close it for the day. But is there anything else that you would like to tell us that we haven't touched upon?
No, not really. I just want to say thank you for having me here, that I'm proud of everything you do. I watch closely, and I'm thankful for social media that do keep us connected. And since, whoever will watch this interview, if you think anything was of value, just share it with others, but also share your thoughts with others. So do the thing we were talking about before. Take a book, leave a book. So each and every one of us might have lots of valuable tips to share with others. And if we continue to do so, well, then the world will be a better place. So tips from every gig, not just mine. You know what I mean?
Yes. Well, Maestro, thanks a lot for being here with us. I have to say, you've been a great pillar in my growth as a drummer and musician. So I'm really grateful to have met you in my life, and I truly hope that we meet in person again very, very soon.
I know it's overdue, and I feel like we will.
Yeah. Great. Have a good one.
Thank you, Ale. Ciao.